Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Chuck Manley and Scott Moon, or as we like to say in the After Dark hour, Scoot Moon A.
Yep, that's true. We just talked about that right before the show, sort of.
Scott Moon After Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to another Monday afternoon show. It's not Tuesday. If you guys were confused at all, it's not Tuesday. It's Monday.
I don't know what day it is.
We don't know.
We don't know either. We just kind of picked a day and went with it. However, for those of you that like to be on the schedule and know what's going on, I think that Monday at 2 is going to be our new for sure time.
Yes.
Until we change it again. Monday at 2 is going to work forever until we change it again. So
until it's not.
Right.
Until it's not.
It's like
until another day comes.
You get super drunk and hungover, and you're waking up, and you've got this headache from hell, and you're like crawling across the bathroom floor, and you're like, I'm never, ever, 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 ever drinking again until the next time. And then
you do.
Until your friends call you later that night.
That's right.
Yeah.
Want to go out? I'm there. Let's see. Rick Partlow, coincidentally, is the first comment of the day, so he gets the.
He is. I also heard he won the Dragon Awards in the active sci-fi romance category.
Yes, the active war.
Well done, Rick. Well done.
Congratulations.
He's always a winner to us.
If you don't follow him on Facebook, he was at the Dragon Awards, posted some cool pictures with hands shaking, his holding Tim Zahn holding his book. That was pretty neat.
Autograph.
A whole bunch of other cool.
You got that kind of clout when you've been nominated for a dragon.
That's right.
Good job, Rick.
Well, I got nominated for one. I don't have that kind of.
But you didn't go. You should have went, and then you could have shaken hands.
Yeah, you got to be where the people are.
I see.
You got to go.
That's why I never get anything, because I don't people
go anywhere.
Those people are so people-y.
Let's see. Ken Britz is here. Hello, Ken. Welcome. Let's see. I'm scrolling through and my thing is not scrolling all the way down. Well, if you're in the chat, hello, welcome. Hello, hi.
Looks like
Jake Clifton's
Jake Clifton's here. Yeah.
I have a beer in one hand and Keystroke Medium in the other. Wait a minute. How does that work? Happy Labor Day, Jay. We went to the beach yesterday. I'm going to go with my updates first. We went to the beach out to the lake yesterday. Took the boat out for what probably will have been the last boat outing of the year. And
something happened to the boat?
No, it's just well,
because we sank that bitch.
Coincidentally, like you asked that, but yes, because we were on our way out to the lake, and I stopped at the gas station to get gas in my truck, and no sooner do I get out of my truck and start walking to the gas pumps when some dude walks around the pump by my boat and goes, "Hey, you got a flat tire?" And I go, "Oh." My trailer. Now, luckily, I had the foresight when I bought the boat to buy a spare tire and have the dealership mounted on my boat. So I had the spare tire, and I just had to change it, and that sucked. I tell you what, you guys. I mean, you've changed a tire before.
It's mounted on your boat or your trailer?
Twice.
So you're ranking the lug nuts off. But eventually, like they get loose, and you can like hand spin them off, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hand spun your lug nuts?
These did not hand spin. I had to use that thing the entire.
Oh, I guess because there's so much weight on it.
I don't know, man. Yeah. It sucked. I was like, man, I should just walk, because I was like a mile from my house. I want to walk home, get my impact wrench with a big bit, a torque bit, and just come back and go like NASCAR on it and go zip, 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 zip. So anyway, then we got the trailer fixed. We made it out to the lake, got a little bit tipsy, played a game called Frisbeer. And if you don't know what Frisbeer is, like Google it, because it's probably the best lake game you can play. It's also pretty fun to play in your backyard. It's with Frisbees and beer, so you can never go wrong.
Right.
And what I didn't realize is that all of the games that I played while I was on defense, I was squatting like in preparation to grab the Frisbee. And
just
now
dedication.
and now I can't sit down because my butt muscles are sore. Well, apparently you can get a workout and drink beer at the same time.
Anytime you can drink beer and make your butt hurt. I mean, that's a good day.
Come on now. Yes. So
maybe a different
like
conversation.
A West LA weekend, man.
That's right. That's actually on Tuesdays. It's only on Tuesdays.
Right. Yeah.
So not much writing for me. This last week I worked up in Claflin on the police department, made a couple of funny TikToks. If you didn't catch those on my Facebook feed, they're pretty hilarious. My buddy Christian made a duet, is what it's called on TikTok, when you basically film yourself next to somebody else's video. And it was hilarious. And every time I watched it, I laughed longer and harder. And I was crying. I was laughing hard.
TikTok. I've not done TikTok. Is it cool?
It took me a little bit to get into it, but it's pretty funny. I mean,
it's like the Twitter of YouTube.
If do you remember Vine from like 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's a replacement for Vine.
It's basically Vine, except a lot better.
Okay.
It's pretty fun.
I might check it out. Vine was kind of fun.
Well, who's William Tyler Davis does some really funny writer ones on there. I follow him on TikTok. It's pretty funny. So anyway, not a whole lot writing wise done. That's going to be this week. I don't have to go back into Claflin until the weekend after next, or the week after next rather. So I got all the kids are in school now. The wife's going to be at work, and now this week, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be able to sit down and really pound out some words on whatever the hell I'm going to call the sci-fi book that I'm writing, because Sentinel's not going to work. Savage Star's not going to work. We're just going to call it generic sci-fi action extravaganza.
My work in progress.
Yeah.
You should call it My Butt Hurts from the Lake. Just a working title.
It's like a
Savage Butt.
A Tuck Chingle by Tuck Chingle. Savage Butt is also it's an awesome title. Where did the show go? We've been live for 7 minutes.
Oh my God.
We're still on your update.
We're still on your update, man. That's all it took.
Anything else for my? Oh, I started listening to Lord of the Rings, which I'd never listened to or read, as the case may be. The Fellowship of the Rings,
okay, I'd ask: are you listening to the full cast version, or are you listening to just somebody reading it?
Who's reading it? It's just a single guy,
single narrator. Okay.
Yeah. And he is a really, really, really good narrator. I'm going to look it up real quick because it's still on my.
I bet that
please tell me it's
challenging one to do.
Please tell me it's Simon Vance.
It's not. It's Rob Ingalls.
I've heard of that guy.
He did a really, really, really good job. And I got into the story, and it was interesting to I talked about this in our writers meeting this week, to know where the scenes are coming and know what's going on. And like, I've only seen the movie, so that's my only investment in Lord of the Rings, but to see how the difference in the way they did it cinematically and the way they did it in the book, cool to see the similarities and the differences. And I think some of the better storytelling aspects actually happened in the movie for me rather than in the books. I was kind of underwhelmed by a lot of the section books.
So the first book is really slow.
It's super.
Yeah.
And like I was underwhelmed at. I was underwhelmed. My favorite part of the book was Moria. I think
cool.
that by far was
good
my
visuals
section.
Yeah.
The visuals were good. The building of the tension was good. I thought all of that was good. I was underwhelmed at the Balrog fight, especially with when Gandalf is having his face off, because in the movies he's like emotionally charged and he's like, "You shall not pass," in this big dramatic moment. Well, in the books, basically he just "you can't pass" or "you cannot pass" and puts his staff down. And like it's basically like he just did that and they went on. And so that was like, I was expecting like a big dramatic thing to happen. But I mean, still good.
Yeah.
Still good.
I mean, for the time it was written, they didn't have the visuals to compare it to. So it was
100%. And I bet if I was reading it instead of listening, because the way he narrated it was like, "You cannot pass." And that was it. So maybe the narration kind of underwhelmed it a little bit for me. And it was a lot. I mean, obviously it's a lot of walking and a lot of traveling, and you get to some place and you go to another place and you go to another place. But I think it overall, I'm enjoying it. I think if it was a book that had been written now and present day, probably wouldn't do well at all.
No,
but because it was written in a time where nothing like that existed before.
Well, and it was written in a time when you might have a 1 or 2 books and you just read that same book over because that's all the books you're going to get.
Right.
And you had lots of time on your hands. So, I mean, you kind of wanted books to be super long and take a lot of time to read. But nowadays we only have like 83 seconds and then we're done.
Right. You have this much attention to grab.
Well, I had 6 months to read this, but no, I want it read by tomorrow.
Yeah. So I think that's I think that's all I have for my update this week. Scott, you're up.
I'm just monitoring the live chat, and there's just.
Let's see. Kit is here. Hello, Kit. Marta today. Welcome.
He specifically said not to call him out, but thanks. Good job.
Leo is late, and I'm going to pull it. Well, I'm going to point that out. Leo's late, so that's a fine. We're going to adjust that later. So there's that. Did I miss anybody that didn't want to be called out?
I was mostly looking at all. Well, yeah, call everybody out. But where was it at? There's several variations of your title that were greatly amusing. Maybe not always fit for
Major Ass Burns. Yes,
there you go.
Savage Valor is good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so what did I do this week? I wrote lots of words. I've been having some outstanding word counts over the last probably month or so, starting about the middle of August, just really hammered it. So I broke 90,000 words for the first time since setting that goal in August, and I'm doing pretty good. I had a slow start this month, but the last couple of days have been pretty good. So writing lots of words. I finished Reaper 11 yesterday. Yay. I'm working on BSA 3. I'm worried it's going to be much longer because we talked about that last time where I was writing each character arc individually.
Yep. And
it was making one character arc who was a side, not a side character, but like a secondary character. It had like 30,000 words already. I'm like, So I've dialed it back, and now I'm kind of just going through it chronologically through the outline, and I like that a bunch. I had reasonably good luck with working and trying to learn how to do Facebook ads and Amazon ads, and I've had some good success with that. But I'm still not sure if I'm just lucky or if I could actually, because ideally I'd like to understand the principles so I can use them, but also so I could explain them to people who ask about them. But I've read all the books and tried all the things that they say in all the books and all the experts, and none of that stuff seems to work for me.
But there's an X factor to that thing.
There is. And so there's a couple of things that I think is interesting. I think there's a couple of options. One, they don't actually know what they're talking about, most of the experts, which is my first strong suspicion, because they had something that worked, or maybe they know how it works for them, but it doesn't necessarily generalize to everybody else who write. I don't know. And then there's also the chance that people are not sharing their best stuff. Like, I did X, Y, and Z and got great sales, but they're not telling you, A, B, and C.
Right.
Because there is a danger of that. I mean, like Chris Fox, a great guy, super generous, shared all of his secrets, and everybody just abused those things to hell and back.
Well, and it's interesting because they took all his secrets, but they also took it literal, way too literal, more literal than he was trying to suggest. Right. And it's funny because he was specifically using Mill Sci-Fi just as an example.
Right.
Of all of the genres out there, he picked Mill Sci-Fi to use an example, and everybody took that to mean, oh shit, I need to do this for Mill Sci-Fi.
Right. Instead of doing their own research, they just jumped on there and just flooded the market with all the same tactics. And, that's a danger, because we're a big group as writers, like 20 books is 40,000 people now. And that's enough people to have an actual effect on the industry if we all start doing it,
Yeah.
Of course, not everybody in 20 books is publishing actively, but there's a lot of people. And I think we definitely can make a wave. And the idea is to make a wave positively, I think. So my point of that is I'm trying to actually learn. It's not my strength. I don't spend that much time on it, but I think as an indie author, I would like to at least know, even if I get to a point where at some point it's somebody else's problem. Like, if you go, we talked about this a little bit off camera about small press like Athon or Variant, or some of those legitimate ones are very good to go with, because it's really a lot to do as an indie. To be a true indie nowadays is very hard. There's so many things.
Absolutely.
Competition's very stiff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But even if I let Athon or Variant or whoever do all that stuff, I still think I should be educated and informed. And I think that takes a little bit of experimentation. So that's kind of why I continue to do my solo books, even though I have much better luck with collaborations or small publishers. So I worked on that. Took the kids swimming and did not injure myself. So that was a pretty big plus. Yesterday we went to the Y closer to our house and went in the wave pool. It's nothing, I can't think of a lot else exciting. We're thinking about buying a house. We put some money down on a lot. And so we've been talking about that a lot. We spent a lot of time looking at house plans and diagrams and going by the place we want to move to, which is closer to Josh. So that's interesting.
So how
on the west side,
have you driven by the lot and not coming to sit hi?
A lot. We drove by your house the other day because every time we drive by there, we go by the schools.
Yeah.
And then when I point across that little drainage area where there's a sidewalk, there's Josh's truck. And then we just drive on by.
Nice.
I didn't think you wanted me and all my kids and everybody come crashing into your house.
Oh, sure. It's a party.
Yeah, it's a party. So next time we'll bring it in. We'll bring like a 6-pack of beer held up through the loopholes.
Yeah.
Just stopping by.
Yes.
No, and some Frisbees, I guess. So
100%.
That's about it. That's all I got. Just writing a lot. That's really the main thing I'm doing. Lots of writing. And my pictures all fell down, or some of my pictures fell down. So I took them down and I set them on top of my bookshelves. So I'll have to fix that at some point.
Get concrete paste.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a nail gun and go right in the center of each picture.
Just leave them up there for the next guy.
Yeah. The wife says no, but who knows?
Really, once you get them up there, if you can't take them down, there's nothing you can't do.
It's not my problem.
It's, part of the house now.
Yeah, sorry.
How about you, Chuck? What do you got for updates?
Oh, I'm chugging away towards the end of Jack Dark Book 2. If I stick to my schedule, I'll be done with it by October 1, which is awesome. What else? Just the usual stuff, man. The softball and the wife's closet fell apart because she has too many clothes. So after this show, I got to go and rebuild that. And yeah,
caveat: you have to get rid of some of your clothes.
I have very timidly approached that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Back away.
Heard the ice cracking under my feet and quickly withdrew.
Charge in there like a
good decision. Good decision.
Look, I'm going to give you the script right now.
I mean,
listen here, woman. No one needs this amount of clothes. I'm telling you right now, you're going to get rid of this and this.
You got to just
what
realize.
Was that Key and Peele skit where they're like, and I said,
and they're looking around.
You're looking around and like, bitch.
Once he sees the coach,
and he's like, "You called your wife a bitch," and he's like, "Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I'm not lying."
When she wasn't here, when she's not there to hear it.
I am not foolish enough to even consider that.
I didn't say you were a bitch. I said you were. Acting.
There's a reason I've stayed married this long. But yeah, I've got. Had a couple ideas for some short stories I jotted notes down on, and just got to take the kid after I do the closet. I got to take my daughter to softball practice, so it's just the usual stuff. I'm just trying to write my books, and everything keeps coming in and helping out.
Nice. That reminds me, I got invited to another short story anthology. It's the fourth. Yeah, I think it's the fourth We Dare. It's about bounty hunters, and so I'm going to use.
Cool.
I've got a character that I've used for both of the stories that I've been in those anthologies. 2 of the 3, and he's a bounty hunter. I'm going to use that. And the cool thing is, it's not due to the end of the year, so
it doesn't matter.
I've got some time to play around. Of course, no one
doesn't matter. You'll be on the last week.
If you've got 3 hours to clean your house, it'll take it 3 hours. If you've got 3 days, it'll take 3 days.
Oh, January 30th, and it's due January 31st. January 30th, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, if you have 3 months, it'll take 1 day when you have a half a day left before the outline is, or before the deadline.
Ken Britz had a good comment earlier on in the show. We were talking about Lord of the Rings and how the books might not have fared so much so well this in present day. He said a good topic: judging books by their merit and the time they were created, not by modern day standards.
Oh, absolutely, you have to consider that. I mean, because I don't think Lord of the Rings at all would have fared well now.
Well, and I think too, like some of the books that they're like canceling now, like they're like that, they were about slavery back in blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, yeah, that was. It's like I saw a Amazon. I don't know how realistic it is, or even if it is real, or if it's just Photoshop. But I saw a review, and I can't remember who posted it, and I don't know if it was on their book. But basically, it was a 1-star review of this book, and they said this was it was written in like 2018 or 2019 or something like that, but it was set in 2020, and nowhere in the book did they mention coronavirus.
Right, because they're supposed to be able to see the future.
Right, it was a horrible miscarriage of justice because this author who wrote a fictional book in 2020 didn't mention coronavirus.
I saw that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, great stuff.
I got a chuckle out of that. That was pretty like.
Yeah. But like that's the crazy people that are out there. That are like,
sure.
I read this book and I cannot believe that this. It's insane to me that
there are people out there that will say anything to get somebody to notice. You know,
my youngest son is reading Dracula, and so
like the Stoker, the original.
Yeah, the original one. I've never read it, so I said I'd read after he does. Well, he's got another book, so he says you can read it now. So I wish I had brought it down here. So last night I started, but in the first thing it's the life of Bram Stoker's, or however you say it. And so I go through and it has like this long timeline, and like it has like, when Einstein's theory of relativity came, and when, the Boer War started, all this stuff and all these things that, but it talks about the previous Gothic books that were published. And the thing I found amazing is that they're all like 10, 15 years apart. It's like they had one major literary change like every 20 years over like the 60 years or whatever that this was covering, or 60 or more, I guess. And it was just amazing because nowadays there's like 3,000 books a day published. So back then a book being published was a big deal. Like in one of the books, it was written in the 19th century. One of the characters was a typist, and she was lauded for her extremely modern skills because she could type. Nobody could type because the typewriter was high tech at the time. So that we're talking about books in different eras, and it made me, because I kind of lump all those together, like Dracula and the Island of Dr. Moreau and all those. Those weren't published anywhere near each other.
Right.
By modern
standards.
They set a standard and an example that's lived on, and other books have emulated them. And I think that's why they still kind of stand out, because they were, and a lot of those were kind of the first of their kind to really, really resonate with the culture. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're easy to read.
No,
by any stretch.
No, it's just very interesting. And I wonder if their styles were much more similar, even over like 60 years of writing, where 60 years here, like even if you started like, say in 1970, a book written in 1970 versus a book written in 2010 would be completely different as far as pacing, as far as, what you'd put in it for, social reasons or political, or what you would imagine the technology would be vastly different.
Well, I'm sure there are books that were written in the 80s when I was a teenager that wouldn't pass muster today because they were a lot more relaxed with sexism and racism, and they didn't have to worry about getting canceled all the time.
Well, probably every book written now, if you took it back to the 1900, would probably get canceled, or they would think it's trash because it's so short.
Absolutely, they'd laugh you out of the room. Absolutely.
The storytelling aspect too, like the art of storytelling, I think has increased over the number of years, just in the way that stories are told and presented. I cannot read like Rendezvous with Rama. I've never read Foundation, like the classic sci-fi books.
Right.
I cannot read those. And if you're saying it's just how they were written back in the day. And I have no interest in reading them. They might be great books, but I just can't sit through them. I'll watch the Apple show when it comes out.
I read them when I was young.
Yeah.
And I managed to get, I think I read the first 2 of the Foundation trilogy. I don't know that I ever finished it, but even then I was like, these are a slog.
Tough.
Because those were when Asimov was writing that stuff, it was all very cranial, you know. It was very, you know, a lot of math, and you know, it was a quote unquote thinking man's science fiction.
Kit mentioned Dune in the chat a little bit ago. I said if it was Dune would be.
I agree with that.
Today, it probably would be. What I think is interesting about that is I did not like Dune. I've listened to it twice. I can't. There's something about it.
It's overrated. I've always thought it was a little overrated.
I've watched a whole bunch of lore videos on YouTube, like that talk about like going forward in Dune and what actually happens and all that stuff. I
tell you what's actually
sweeping, and it's a good story, but the way that it's told is I just could not get into it. Did you
read the second book?
No,
I was told way back then the first book is not. The second book's much more entertaining. What's actually really good is the books written by his son and Kevin J. Anderson.
Oh, really?
I pounded through a bunch of those about 10 years ago, and those were very.
Yeah, I've never read any of those.
I may, but they just don't like. It's not one of those things where I'm like, oh my god, I have to read Dune. What's funny about Dune is that
we've upset Leo.
I know. Sorry, Leo. What's funny about Dune, especially with the movie coming out, which I'm really excited about, because I think the movie looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'm worried it's going to die because people set the expectations so high.
Well, so it's already really, I don't know where it's released at, but it's already released in overseas somewhere. And they're already getting reviews, and all the majority of the reviews that are coming back are overwhelmingly positive. But what I think is hilarious about this is reading the book. I know fundamentally how important the female characters are in Dune.
Absolutely.
Jessica and what's the girl that Paul dreams about? I can't remember.
God,
the Fremen girl, and I don't.
Yeah, it's been like 20 years since I read
it.
Her and Reverend Mother Kohaya, whatever her name is, really important characters to the story. And it was written back in the day where, like you said before, the sexism and all that. One of the female characters one of the female actors of the movie, I can't remember. I don't know. I think she plays Lady Jessica.
Cheney is Paul's love interest on Arrakis.
There you go. So the actress that plays
Chani, I guess,
said that I haven't read the book, but I'm fairly confident that this story is based on like a sexist backbone of whatever else. And I'm like, you don't have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean,
you should never start with I haven't read the book.
If you have an opinion on something, for God's sake, make sure it's based in actual experience and not just assumption.
Right.
That drives me crazy.
It was ridiculous. I'm really excited for that movie to come out.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a huge Dune fan, but I love seeing like Blade Runner 2049 was beautiful. I love seeing really big budget sci-fi movies do super well because everybody always talks shit on sci-fi. And it's everybody's it's a sci-fi movie, and then you think it's a B sci-fi movie off the Sci-Fi Channel, and
you get more
NATO or something.
And if they do well, you get more good
Pastor.
Yeah.
If you do well, they get more good movies.
100%
that genre and stuff.
Well, that one looks like it's going to be excellent. It's got a hell of a cast, and that's always a big draw for me if there's a lot of good actors in it. So
my favorite,
I'm looking forward to that one.
My favorite story from Blade Runner 2043 or whatever it was, when we were leaving the theater, there was a bunch of younger individuals in there, and one of those young women said, "Why was Harrison Ford in that movie?" Okay. What was he even doing in that movie?
Okay. I saw something. I want to go back and rewatch the movie. I saw a little trivia clip that basically in the new movie they were saying that the replicants are marked on their eyes. Like if they look up, you can see the marking
Right.
on their eyes, right?
Well, that's kind of cool.
But when the movie first starts, and you have to look up and to the left to see the marks on their eyes. And then if you see that mark, then you know that person is a replicant. When the movie starts, like I said, I haven't verified this. The name or the word replicant appears on the top left corner.
So everybody has to look up to the left to make sure you're not a replicant.
To the left, and so you would be exposing your eyes to see if you're a replicant or not. Starts.
That's awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That's nice. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
So I wanted to circle back around to something you said earlier about how storytelling has evolved and become better since some of those examples we gave. But I am concerned it's going to go the other way, because nowadays, I mean, I have lots of friends actually, or people I know and have met, that their only criteria for whether a movie is good is if the special effects are good. And a lot of the movies that I've seen lately, they don't have hardly any story. Yeah. It's like slam a bunch of special effects, a kind of what is supposedly a clever twist, and some big name actors, and that's a great movie. I'm like, that story was pretty lame, but it'll get all the right accolades and stuff. So I don't know. Storytelling might be going down the tubes in the next 20 years.
So I think that storytelling fundamentally is getting better. Like what you're talking about is like studio storytelling, which is an exec that's not a storyteller going, I want this to be in the movie, or
right. But that's what people are going to grow up on, because fewer people are reading, more people are watching these movies, and so they will grow up. Their standard is going to be these cookie cutter. Right. This will make a lot of money because we have all the proper. And I'm going to, even though I love MCU, you got all the humorous moments from all of the Marvel movies. Right. And that's a great movie. Big special effects, laughs in all the right places. We love these characters. That's a good story.
Then again, you could look at like Jupiter Ascending, and that movie had like a huge production budget, and the effects were phenomenal. And if you guys hear the lawnmower outside, I apologize. The effects were phenomenal, and the
movie was not great.
The movie was shit. Oh my god!
I was so disappointed in that because it looked so good in the trailers.
But if you look at like just as storytelling, like we've talked about Yellowstone on the show before. Yellowstone is great show.
Oh, for sure. Great storytelling, yes, very tight. Even if you don't like it.
I mean, the budget's going to be big. They've got big name actors, and it's not a cheap show to make, but it's not like a Marvel or a Michael Bay explosions type thing.
Here's the thing about that. Like my son, for instance, he's 16, so he basically has grown up with the MCU. And like I took him to see Shang-Chi yesterday, which was really good, by the way.
Really?
I really enjoyed it. I really did. But anyway, he's grown up on the exact kind of stuff that Scott's talking about. But he went to he had to go to a camp for his most recent play, and while they were there, they watched Forrest Gump.
Oh, great movie!
And he texted me and he's like, "Holy shit, you have failed as a father. You did not show me this movie." So my point is, even if they're raised on
they can still appreciate
entertainment, when they get exposed to really good storytelling, it's going to resonate with them.
Yep.
It's going to stick.
I think that's the case for any good story or any good movie. It's like Seven. Seven's like 30 years old or some bullshit like that, and I still love.
Why are you doing that to me? Why are you doing that to me?
Well, what was it? I'm going to look that up because Seven. I was just telling my wife the other day that Seven was my first VHS.
Holy crap! That was a good movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, so you guys have shined a little ray of hope into my life. Now I feel much better about our storytelling future.
Fantastic movie.
1995, that movie came out.
I went to see that with my best friend in the theater. That was before I ever met my wife. I was probably about 24 years old.
26 years old.
And we were watching it, and that part where they find the guy he's the sloth sin, so he's just that big fat guy laying in the bed with the bed
with all the
and they think he's dead.
Air fresheners.
They think he's dead, and then he just coughs or whatever, and it's a big jump scare.
I got no hand, Lieutenant Dan.
I'm sitting in a theater and watching this, and he coughs, and oh crap, he's alive. My best friend leans over and goes, "Do not bring that motherfucker to my
ER." Oh yeah.
I was kind of like, yeah, I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, talking about storytelling going up and down, I think that you can definitely see how it's getting better overall. But I think too, like you look back over the last 30 years, there are some really, really, really good stories, and then there's a lot of mediocre ones too. And I think that trend will probably continue, and it's finding that good story, which I think is the case for movies and for books too. But it's a lot harder now for books because there's so many more books than anything else.
You know, the stuff you're talking about, Scott, has been around forever, because I remember reading critiques of like pulp stuff from the 20s and 30s and the Penny Dreadfuls from way back when, and how the literati was like, oh, this is going to be the corruption of the world and people are going to, not forget how to read and blah, 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 blah. But the classics still reign, and those things just kind of fall by the wayside because as people mature, they're going to appreciate better quality entertainment than they do when they're young. Now, granted, I still like that pulp stuff. I Doc Savage, The Shadow, all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
good stuff. But you appreciate it for what it is, and you don't really compare it to the classics and the great storytelling. I mean,
they're different. They're different genres.
Yeah, it's just this is just
for sure
our generation's version of this stuff.
Yeah.
Rick says in the 80s it was full of mediocre SFX laden movies. People forget a lot of them. Well, look at many like Arnold Schwarzenegger were just like put Arnold in a movie, and it's
a movie with lots of people to kill, and it's
kind of like all the Rambo movies, like
Rambo, all the Die Hards.
Now, I will say with Die Hard, the first one, and Die Hard with a Vengeance are really good movies.
They were good movies.
Yep.
Die Hard 2 really wasn't that great.
The only franchise from that time that I think did a really good job of storytelling from the first movie to the last is Lethal Weapon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I think there were 5 movies, and beginning to end, that was such a well-constructed, overarching story.
Right.
It all, they had through lines for every one of them, beginning to end. I was super impressed with how they did that franchise. But that's really the only thing out of the 80s I can think of that was like that.
Indiana Jones. That's some good story. Escape from New York.
That one.
I was going to bring up Escape from New York earlier because it actually was, when I pitched The Last Reaper, I pitched it as Escape from New York on an abandoned Death Star. And so I went through that, and then I wrote about half the book before I went and watched it. I hadn't watched it for like 25 years or whatever. Yeah. And so I went and watched it, and like the first 30 minutes of Escape from New York are like literally like staring at a wall. It's so boring.
Yes.
I was like, that would never, I mean, it's back when they played the credits before the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys remember Soldier that came out? It came out after.
Great. Yeah, I love that.
Soldier.
That
was good.
No, just Soldier.
No, just Soldier. With Kurt Russell. Who had his rank tattooed on his face. It was awesome.
Right.
But
that one.
What I was going to say, the last thing about Escape from New York is there are some bits of dialogue in there that I found so brilliant, but like just a couple of words, but in the setting they're just perfectly done, and I really took away that. So there is still some great storytelling in some of those things.
But I don't know if Rick mentioned it originally, but somebody mentioned Primer on. I don't remember where it first appeared. Primer is actually it's a low budget, super low budget movie. I think it was an indie movie at first, and I'm not sure if it probably still is. But it's about 2 guys that basically create a way to do like a time travel type loop, and it's super good. And but it's one of those movies that, because it's low budget, because it's not like there's no like big special effects or anything like that. There's really no special effects at all in this movie. But you have to pay attention, because if you don't pay attention to what they're doing and how they're making it work, then you're like completely lost. I'm like, I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
but it was a good movie. I would recommend that to watch.
So I think what we've learned here today so far is that people can recognize a good story. regardless what's in their past.
Yeah.
Something about it will appeal to you as a person.
You also take into account people are going to have their own personal preferences. You know, like I saw a couple of comments here about the Lethal Weapon thing. Somebody said Lethal Weapon 2 sucked, Lethal Weapon 4 sucked.
Yep.
That's a personal preference. That's a personal opinion. I didn't really dislike any of them.
Yeah,
I like the second one the best. But that's when the second one came out. I was living in LA. I just moved out there. I was 18, and I would watch Die Hard because it'd be like triple features. I'd watch Die Hard, Lethal Weapon 2, and the first Batman movie with Keaton. And I would watch those three, and those were like my whole life. It was kind of made it work.
Best Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to his return in that role. But
you guys are so mean.
So here, what other topics did we throw out? Do you guys, okay, so I wanted to talk, there's one I think I threw out. So is there value to having gatekeepers to publishing? Because with the elimination of gatekeepers, we find ourselves in this situation where, yes, we can publish rapidly. Anybody can do it. But that means that, and I don't really know how to put this diplomatically, so I'm not going to try. Those of us who take it seriously and know how the hell to write a book are actually in a sea of people who think it's easy and just throw shit out there.
Right.
Is that access worth wading through the millions of books that we have to wade through and compete with?
The part that I most resent in that whole scenario you just described is the people that saw on Facebook, write this and make a easy, what do you call it? Yeah, write an easy 6-figure income by writing your memoir or whatever. Yeah. And then they convince
a journal.
Right. Yeah, and they convince that there's people that are convinced by kind of some of these predatory business model things.
Yes.
It's kind of like the multi-level marketing schemes. Like, yeah, I was a homeless guy in a car 2 weeks ago, but then I wrote my memoir. I threw it on KDP, and now I'm a billionaire.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of thing
and that draws people that are just vomiting complete horseshit into the Ethernet, and then we all have to, like, people who actually care about stories and books have to compete with that just from a mass perspective.
I mean,
I think
is it worth it?
I think there are yes and no. I would say yes and no. I would say that I mentioned getting some positive feedback from a publisher on a pitch and a synopsis that I wrote, and I received a lot of good criticism. And criticism that will make the story better, most likely. And so I think, a lot of it's subjective. Most art is subjective. Although you can look at something fundamentally and go, like, that is bad writing. Like the writing is bad. But on a story level or on a character level, so a lot of that is subjective. Like, somebody likes Lethal Weapon 4 or somebody doesn't like Lethal Weapon 4. Like, that is the overall story that is subjective. Like, you can look at the acting and go, the acting was phenomenal, or the camera work was phenomenal. But I think, like, with gatekeepers, you have the subjectiveness of, like, you get into, like, the uppity, like, top 5, and you get into that bracket, and now that's just name recognition, so you can write whatever you want. It's like, I hate most of Stephen King's books because he can't finish a book to save his life, and only very rarely does he have a really good ending to a book, like The Green Mile or Shawshank Redemption. Like, those ended very well.
Yeah.
But then you have some books like The Dark Tower that admittedly is some of my favorite of his work until you get to book 5, and then the ending is just horrible.
Yeah.
But so having not even the gatekeeper, but having that measure in there to make the story better, I think is worth it. But if you can't get there, then indie publishing is a good avenue. But I would just say strive for your best work and just don't shit on a manuscript and put it out there. Like, have respect for yourself, have respect for the other.
Do you think there are a lot of people doing exactly that?
Well, this is the reason why this is the reason why a lot of people hate indie authors. Is because a lot of indie authors don't take it seriously and they shit out a manuscript. And so then we say, oh, are you a published author? You're like, no, I'm indie. And they look at you and they go, oh, you're an indie.
Because that's exactly what I'm saying, because of those people that set that standard, and I think there are a lot more of them than those of us that take it seriously, we end up having to fight against that stigma.
I think there's another part of that stigma that's easily overlooked, and it's not just about the quality. A lot of people, they like to shit on indie authors because basically what it says is you could publish a book, but they're too busy. I'm writing a book and they're going to write that book forever. And I'm going to this high level creative arts program at such and such a university. And in 15 years, I'm going to write my masterpiece. Well, they don't ever have to take any risks.
Right. That is true.
And so they don't like us because they don't like some of us because they're like, because they're gonna like, oh fuck, if I take a chance and publish this book and it doesn't beat Stephen King out of the best #1 slot, then I'm a complete failure, and then everybody will think I'm a loser because they're judging themselves by all these exterior things. That's like saying I bought a brand new truck and they're like, well, if it's not a Toyota Tundra, then it sucks, because that's what's the in thing right now.
I think you're right. A lot of people don't understand. They have a hard time wrapping their heads around us doing something that has no guaranteed return.
Well, and what's interesting is it's only other writers that think that. Like the readers, for the most part, I don't think really can tell the difference between. I mean, you could there are books where you look at and you're
they can, but they probably don't care.
But a lot of readers don't care. And so I have a rant about this. This kind of segues into my rant.
I was trying to open it up for you.
Because we did have that on the schedule actually.
Yes, that as indie authors, there's different levels of doing authors. There's different ways of doing it, and not one way is the best way to do it. There are authors that do everything themselves. There are authors that do some of it themselves and have other people do other things. There's authors that I just want to write the book and give it to the publisher and let them do everything, and I don't ever want to see it again. Like, there's not a wrong way to do a book. And so I'm not mentioning any names here, but this is a rant to indie authors. So if you're watching the show as an indie author, listen up. If you're on social media anywhere and another author that you know posts something, could be anything. In this case, it's, look at this. I have a certain number of reviews. I've reached this number of reviews. Or, hey, check it out. I've got like 500 5-star reviews or something like that. And you've chosen a specific price point for your book. And maybe this book is published hybridly. And you look at it and you go, man, you could do so much better if you change that price to this and you published it yourself. You could take all the money instead of giving them 50% of your earnings, because now you're only earning 15 cents a book or whatever it is. Just shut the hell up. Yeah. Like, that's not your path. That is somebody else's path. If you want to do something different, go and do that. But when you go on somebody else's post and you're like, why would you give these other people money? Well, maybe I have a really good relationship with those people, or maybe I don't want to do the rest of the stuff, or maybe I don't have the knowledge to push it however way you push it. Like,
I know. Does it really matter?
It doesn't matter.
I saw that post as well, and what struck me immediately is it's incredibly tactless, like zero manners about anything.
Right.
You know, you just like walking up and somebody like, look, I just brought home my brand new baby child from the hospital, and then you immediately say, well, you know, why is the kid this?
You should have a girl.
Yeah. Why do you always have boys? You're an asshole. You know, it is so inappropriate to even take the conversation in that direction. And I think that's just fucking really tactless.
Well, and it's the same, like these awards happened, and the Dragon Awards just happened this last weekend. A couple of people we know were nominated. Rick Bartlow was nominated. Larry Correa, who's on the show on Friday, he was nominated. He won for one of his co-authored books. So congratulations. And congrats to all the winners, right? But then if you're going to go on and say, wow, they have so many more reviews than such and such book, I'm wondering how they won. And that, I don't understand that. Like,
it is a Reader's Choice Award. If they get a bigger audience, they get a bigger audience.
Know your audience. But you're talking, like, first of all, why would you go on and say, well, I'm surprised they won because they don't have as many reviews as you? Like, don't shit on somebody's victory. Like, yes, you're supporting somebody else. I'm like, I'm surprised you didn't win, but you're shitting on somebody else's victory here.
Right. Exactly.
Allow them to be, like, let them have their win. And say, like, instead of saying I'm surprised they won, say congrats on your win and move on. Like, so my point is this: as indie authors, we kind of get caught up in our business. We get caught up on what we're doing. Take a minute to think about what you're doing on social media, because of how you present yourself. Really goes a long way to show what you are like as a person. And don't be an ass. Like, writing is hard enough. Doing pumping out work and dealing with that is hard enough. If you have a question about what an author is doing, take that shit to DM, man. Like, ask them, hey, what's up? Why are you doing this?
Yeah. And then if you want to truly be helpful, have a discussion. Have a conversation.
Right. Exactly. A lot of people, when I first went full time, I said I wanted to make 60 grand. And that's really what I needed to make. And there was a lot of people like, why would you shoot so low? You could do so much better. But because I don't need to, I don't want to. I don't want to stress out going for 100,000 or $1 million or whatever else. I can just have fun and do what I want to do and make this number. But that's the thing. These people didn't post on, like, they didn't go in public and say you should aim for this. They did it in private. And they're like, why are you only aiming for that? Because that's what I want. That's what I need.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said, if I could pay my mortgage every month with my books, I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
And a lot of times with social media, when somebody's giving you advice on a public platform, it's not really advice. It's more of a platform for them to shun a showboat.
It's a cry
they're talking to the audience. They're not talking to you or trying to help you personally a lot of times. Not saying every time, obviously, and stuff like that. Right. But I also know the individuals involved in the situation you're describing. And I happen to know the writer involved is probably one of the hardest working writers in publishing.
100%.
Period.
Yep.
And you should just let him have his due because he earned it.
I will say first, like, full. I'll say before anybody else, I see a lot of shit that people post, and I automatically, like, in my head, I'm like, Jesus, like, ugh. But I don't post on Facebook. I call Scott, and I let Scott have it for about 45 minutes to get it all out of my system.
And I give it back to him for an hour.
and then I hang up the phone, and then I move on. So I guess my rant here is, like, it's such a horrible, hard business anyway. And we get bad reviews from readers, and we have to deal with that. And then we have to deal with ourselves, telling ourselves you're writing a shit and you've got to do all this other stuff. Unless you want to be like, if you see something that somebody's doing and you want to try to be helpful or whatever, you don't have to put on your cape and have your knight in shining armor and show everybody that you're being helpful. If you want to just PM that author and go, hey, what's up? This is what I thought. Do that instead of just putting yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole different dynamic when you do it.
That would take some actual work to have a conversation.
Right. Yeah. To answer Renzor the Red, I think is that Eddie Patron?
I can't tell.
Is that Eddie? That's what Rick said. Anyway, he asked if I retired from the force. I did retire from Wichita in 2019. I retired from Wichita PD. And I'm working part-time now for Claflin PD. It's a small time, like 700 people. It's a super, super small town.
Hey, they got skunks there.
There's no, yes. So yeah, I should probably make a Facebook post about it because I get messages all the time now that I put like pictures of myself back on in uniform. Eddie Patton, that's what I meant.
Yeah, Eddie Patron's somebody different.
Just somebody else. That's who
we know in real life.
It's basically I'm helping my father-in-law out. And so I'm going up there a couple of days a week to work part-time as a cop up there. I'm still retired from Wichita PD, and probably here after 3 or 4 months, they'll have found a replacement up there, and I'll be back down here. But yes, I've worked up there a grand total of, I think, 8 days, eight 8 days, a 10-hour day, so 80 hours, so like a 2-week time period, cumulatively. And I've had one call, and that was a skunk in a cage, and I've pulled over 3 cars, and that's all I've done. That's the
That doesn't sound like a bad gig.
You made some TikTok videos.
I made some TikTok videos. That's right. I did make some TikTok videos. Ken says it's on the
Sheriff of Valor.
Sheriff of Bearded Valor.
And so I'm doing that part-time just to kind of help out my father-in-law. And then, hey, look at this, Leo. My videos are hilarious. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Leo. Kayleen says, I say so much in private conversation these days. The last time I posted in the beginning of July, and before that was the beginning of May. Yeah. I mean, private conversations is where the crazy thing about social media now is now everybody thinks that they have to have their like 5 minutes of fame in social. And I'm like, it's aside from posting funny videos and rants about whatever else, I very rarely go to anybody else's posts and say anything. My whole thing in social media is, unless somebody comes on my wall and argues, I don't say anything on it.
Dude, I just have my newsfeed blocked.
Yeah, I don't post
stuff. Do you have birthday guilt, where you wake up every morning, you get 8 birthday alerts, and you feel the obligation to go and wish them happy birthday every day?
It depends on who it is.
Yeah, it depends on
who it is. Yeah. Like I missed Josh's, and I felt bad about that.
As well, you should.
There was some confusion because of the whole big party thing. That wasn't on his actual birthday, and then we put it out there. And
that's right.
I did see that little video, though. I saw that little video. Yeah, the surprise party.
Oh, look, he's a Beard of Valor. That's true.
So it sounds like we could do a show or a side bit of indie authors or authors behaving badly, and just rant about them. It'd be great. But then everybody would know who we're talking about.
I think it's.
Well, if they want attention, we can give it to them.
Yeah, I'll give you some attention.
I think that there are authors out there that are, good authors, but they create drama for themselves, and they like drama as much as they like writing. And
I agree that
I don't like drama. I don't dig drama. I have thoughts and feelings about certain things, but most of the time I keep that shit to myself. But again, if I have something to say to another author about anything, I just go to them, man. I'm not looking for clout. I'm not looking for, oh, look, Josh Hayes said on somebody else's post. It's like last week I shared a post of an author who I said I unfriended this author because they basically said good riddance if you died from COVID, and they were celebrating people dying from COVID because they didn't get the vaccine.
Yeah,
and
that'll get you a drop.
I shared that post, but I blacked out the name because I'm not about clout chasing. I wasn't trying to get any type of respect for making that post. I just said, look, if you feel this way, like legitimately feel this way, I don't want to associate with you at all. And there was another author that took that and made a whole blog post about it, and good for him. That's what he does. And I thought about doing that, but then I was like, whatever. It is what it is. But some people just like drama, and I'm not all about that at all.
Some people like to be the center of attention. I had a friend in high school, and literally you go to a party, and like if you didn't have enough, he's very athletic, he'd like do a backflip in the middle of a fucking party or something. Like, I can't compete with that. But he was very talented. But there are people who are entertainers, and we've all been around them, where they got to be the center of attention at all times. Doesn't matter what type of attention. It can be good attention, it can be bad attention. Which
they have to stay in the conversation, as it were.
Got to stay relevant.
We are getting pretty close to 20 Books Vegas, though. What do we got? Like another 2 months to go, and then it's to Vegas. I'm super excited about.
We need to start preparing for all the panels and stuff.
If you're listening, KSM is going to do a panel. This is the first year where we are doing a panel just for Keystroke. It's a podcasting panel, and we're running it. That's going to be super fun. So if you're interested in podcasting, or you just want to come hear us make fools of ourselves while we're at 20 Books,
come help us out.
That's going to be fun, and you can come and heckle us in the crowd, and that'd
be great. Heck, the more heckling, the better.
And steak. That's right.
Oh yeah, we're probably going to have some steak while we're there in Vegas. A lot.
Eddie says, "Well, be masked." Yes, that's unfortunate. Oh, we should all get those masks that are like the clear masks, so you could still see everybody's face and have everybody like double takes at you while you're walking around. Like,
I don't know why we're all not wearing Mandalorian helmets or something, because it really seems the natural way this has to go to.
Dude, let's do that.
Yeah, we're masked.
Get those Bane masks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nobody cares what I look like until I put on the mask.
I prefer to use StreamYard.
If the restaurants in Vegas aren't open, we're all going to starve to death. Actually, we start pack some protein bars or something. We'll go to Richard Fox's house, knocking on the door. We need to eat.
100%. Or we can go to CCKK's house.
Yeah, or Cheney.
Yeah.
Or Ozzy. All kinds of people live there.
That's true. We need to make a Keystroke Medium Vegas headquarters and get an apartment there.
Yeah, Keystroke Medium issues gas masks.
Now Jay says, please don't have my room monitors clear. Please don't have my room monitors clear out my rowdy taste. Thank you. Oh, there's going to be rowdiness in our podcast panel, just so you know.
There should be, yes.
Let's see. Everybody that came and watched the show today, welcome and thank you guys. Eddie and Kit and Jay Clifton and Ken and Trucker Charlie D in Phoenix today. What's up, Charlie? I love when Charlie. Oh, Lou was here. Hello, Lou. Welcome to the show. If you're listening on the audio podcast and you didn't know for whatever reason that we have a live video podcast, Mondays at 2. We're always at Mondays at 2, and we'll be at Mondays at 2 forever until we change the schedule.
Until science dictates otherwise.
Follow the science hashtag. We will be on Mondays at 2 p.m. Central, which is God's country time, the only time that matters. And if you don't know what time that is, then you can just Google. We love having everybody in the live chat. It's always fun to interact and see what you guys are doing throughout the week. I don't know what the Writer's Journey has going on this week, but they had Larry Correa on. They did an AMA with Jamie Castle, Steve Bollier, and Kayleen Williams. And I think Walt was on that show on Friday. That's on our channel. If you haven't seen that, go watch it. Larry was always a very good guest, and he was very cool to talk with on Friday. So I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. If you have any suggestions for topic conversation, either leave them in the comments of this video down on YouTube, or you can hop over to our Keystroke Medium Facebook page. All you do is type in Keystroke Medium. We're the only ones there. If you find a Keystroke Medium that doesn't have the astronaut helmet, like right down there, down.
I don't know which way.
Scott, point. You're right next to it, Scott. You're right there. No, the other one. Anyway, if you see the astronaut helmet with the microphone, that's us.
Mm-hmm.
Check out our YouTube or our Facebook group. Hello, Sienna from Michigan. Hey, welcome to the show. But it's welcome, and now we're leaving.
Now we're leaving.
Sienna. Show's over.
Apparently, you're mud wrestling people in Vegas, Josh. Just thought you'd let you know.
Wait, what? You get to mud wrestle?
No,
$20.
Yep.
I did not know that. All right, I'll have to bring.
People may not know this. Fun fact: Josh is champion mud wrestler.
2 times.
It's known all throughout the land.
2-time back-to-back world champion.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us this week. We're going to come back next week. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing, and of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium.